Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 41 of the Survival Project. Today, I'm joined by Ian Goldstein. Ian is a Crohn's disease advocate, storyteller, and a comedian from the US. Ian was diagnosed with Crohn's at just 16 years old and spent nearly 2 decades battling bowel obstructions, multiple surgeries, internal bleeding, and the constant uncertainty that comes with living with chronic illness. This conversation isn't just about Crohn's disease, it's about what happens when you're trying to survive an illness while fighting a healthcare system that's actually working against you. Ian shares the emotional and the financial reality of living with IBD in America. From insurance companies denying life-changing medication to paying thousands of dollars every month simply to stay alive. We also dive into the mental health, relationships, and using humour to cope with trauma. Let's get into it. Ian, welcome to the Survival Project. Good to have you here, man.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. It's great to get the insight of people who are across the other side of the water. You know, I'd have a good understanding of the Irish healthcare system, but get someone's understanding of the American healthcare system is great just to share the information. So I suppose to kick things off, would you like to tell us your story?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say first of all, I'm very curious about the Irish healthcare system because I know nothing about that. But that'll be for later.
It's shit.
In terms of my story, so I've had Crohn's disease for about 20 years. I was diagnosed in 2007 when I was 16 years old, and I had a lot of symptoms. I had like weight loss, loss of hunger, frequent bowel movements, a lot of pain, spasms, among myriad other symptoms. And we didn't know what was wrong for a few months until I guess it's relatively quickly compared to a lot of other people I know. It was diagnosed as Crohn's and slight colitis pretty early on after a colonoscopy. I got on some medications, some worked, some didn't. Finally, I got on 6-MP, that started working. And for the next few years, I was great. I was like, oh, I'm good. I've got my Crohn's in remission. I'm set, like still can eat whatever I want. I'm good. And then in 2013, when I was in my senior year of college, as some of your listeners might have had, or maybe you have had as well, I had my first bowel obstruction. And so it was during Passover, actually, and I had some matzah, and I was like, oh, wow, I feel some stomach pain. But this stomach pain was like not unlike any other I've ever had, to the point where I was like, I have to get into a fetal position on the floor. And so I had my first bowel obstruction, went to the ER, had my first NG tube put in, but that's, the tube up your nose, down your throat. And I was like, oh, I didn't know this kind of torture device exists now, so this is fun. And so switched on medications. I got on Humira for many years, and then similar thing. Like I guess this is what it is with Crohn's, right? You go through these years of like, I'm good, I'm set, I think I've like fixed this, and I can live with this now. There's another curveball thrown your way, and so as time went on, I got more and more stricturing because that first bowel obstruction was caused by stricturing from the inflammation that was not resolved. And this stricturing just caused blockages at certain times. So I had to revise my diet, not have raw vegetables. And then by like 2022, my gastroenterologist look, you have like 8 strictures, and this is not going to go away. This is a mechanical issue needing a mechanical solution. This is not a biologic solution. You're going to need surgery. I recommend you do it now and not later. And so I had my first bowel resection in 2022, which removed the stricturing, and I had about 2 feet of intestine taken out. And and then I again thought I was good, and then found out that I was internally bleeding after the surgery for a few years because I had the staples that they used to sew up the anastomosis, the part where they reconnect the intestine. The staples got stuck and caused internal bleeding. And so I was very stubborn. I'm like, I'm not getting surgery again. I'm not doing it. Nope. Because after my first surgery, I had an ileus. This is like my whole story, by the way. So we can definitely go into all of this, but this is the overview. And then finally, I found a great surgeon this past year, and we revised the anastomosis, did another surgery, and now I'm at that state again where I'm like, oh, I think I'm okay. So I guess that kind of means I'm waiting for another curveball to be thrown at me. But right now, I'm okay, I guess. So that's where I'm at.
Isn't that the joys of chronic illness? Is that unfortunately it puts a fear on you because of what you've experienced previously. Yes. You're thinking, I'm good at the minute, but what's around the corner? It's a very uncertain way to live your life, which is very tough. But I just want to circle back to when you got your diagnosis at 16. What did you understand about your diagnosis when it came to in your teenage years?
That's a really good question. I think when I was first diagnosed, I remember feeling like, oh God, I'm 16. I have to have a colonoscopy. This is like I'm way ahead of the game, but not in the way I want to be. So I feel really old really quickly. I also thought, I think one of the things I keep thinking about is when I was 16, they're like, yeah, you're inflamed. And I was like, oh, okay. Why is that bad? I remember really distinctly thinking like, I don't understand what's bad about that. Like, okay, there's inflammation. Like, so what? What does that mean? And I never got an explanation. So I was like, oh, they just need to get the inflammation down. But even if they don't, like having inflammation, like I don't know what's bad about that. So all I understood was like I was inflamed and that's it. I didn't know that all these other things could be connected. All these other problems could be connected. Bowel obstructions, stricturing, cancer. Like I didn't know. I just didn't, I think that's probably a mix of my lack of education and lack of maybe information that was doled out at the time and 20 years ago.
Yeah, it's very hard because when we get the diagnosis so young, obviously we only have the understanding of maybe our life experience at that time, unless someone literally spells it out for you, as in this is what your future could be. And I suppose in one sense they're protecting us in a sense that they don't want to scare the life out of us, but it's not doing us a service by not warning us what could possibly come in the future. By controlling the information, maybe if there's
Right.
more information, we can, I don't know, become more aware of what we need to do. But just going on to the strictures point, I myself had strictures in 2023 and had to have surgery to remove them. But the intestinal blockages are nasty. Absolutely. They're horrendously painful.
You've had them too.
Oh yeah, I've had
Yeah.
my entire large
You know what it's
intestine
like.
taken out and 11 centimeters my small intestines.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
I've had
Yeah,
had a
that's
few bits
yeah.
gone.
You're even more of a pro. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's
When you got the 2 foot taken out, was there a chance that they were telling you might end up with a stoma colostomy, or
they mentioned that it's possible. Yeah, my surgeon beforehand was like, it is possible that you might need this. It's like we don't want to guarantee you don't, we don't want to guarantee you do. We're just letting you know. And I which I did appreciate, but of course it did put, that's an interesting thing that you said before where you're like, you want them to tell you. And I'm like, I absolutely want them to tell me, but I'm also like, with my anxiety and overthinking, do I want them to tell me? Because I'm gonna think the worst of all of this and anticipate the worst. And so it's that balance of like, I do want to know, but also I'm going to overthink this. Yeah.
yeah, completely. We can nearly bring symptoms on by overthinking on them and focusing on them. So in one sense, it's out of sight, out of mind. In another sense, we need to know what we're up against.
Yes.
As you said, it's finding that balance. But I'd just like to dive into who you yourself have become. You have a career in comedy, to the best of my knowledge. Am I correct in that? Yes. Were you
Yeah. Yeah.
were you always into the kind of comedy stuff before your diagnosis, or do you feel that it's something that's more developed since it?
Yeah. No, that's so, and it's interesting. I still hesitate to call myself a comedian because knowing comedians in New York, I'm like, those guys, those people I know in New York, they hustle. They're out every night doing mics, doing shows. And I'm like, I'll do it here and there. I'll host a show here and there.
Was it always a kind of career path you want to go down, or do you feel that using humor maybe as a possible coping mechanism was something you developed and has pushed you into this career, or was it something you were always planning to go down the route of?
I think it pushed me more. I did in middle school want to be, at the time I think it was like Lonely Island, SNL, and it was like, oh, that's what I wanted to be. Me and my friends would make dumb comedy movies in high school. So I'm like, oh, I would love to write for any of these shows in college. I was like, I'd love to write for Community or any of these really good comedy shows that I like. But I think the chronic illness did allow me at least to be like, oh, like these are, I think, at least relatively unique stories that I'm finding here that are not fun, but there are comedic elements to it. So I did at least find like this little niche for myself where I'm like, oh, I can do a show called The Autoimmune Saloon and have comedians with chronic illness on the show and we can all relate about it. And there's the cat. Okay.
Well, welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for you. Yeah. So yeah, so it's a good question because it did push me a bit into it where I was like, it gives me something to talk about that's not just like dating. If comedians can talk about interesting, funny dating stories, that's great. I don't think I have anything to offer there. I've also been with my partner for like 8 years, so I don't have many stories there. So I'm like, great, I can talk about my chronic illness and talk about my doctor telling me personal information from his life that I don't know if I needed to know on stage. And yeah, so I think it did push me a bit. I think it also got me to meet like really great people. Just like I think I actually learned more things from people in the audience at some of these shows than I did from my doctors. I didn't know what an intestinal ultrasound was until I met someone from the audience. So I was like, oh, okay, I wish my doctor would have mentioned this.
Yeah, I think humor
Yeah.
is a fantastic way to, in one sense, make things a little bit easier, but also raise awareness of what you're going through without the burden and sorrow that can sometimes come with these issues. So I think it's a fantastic thing to
Yeah.
see the humor, see the lighter side of it, and use that platform as well to raise awareness of what people will be going through and their different plights. Just diving into your career, how much has your career, would you say, been allowed to flourish because of what you've gone through, or been inhibited by what you went through?
I actually would say it went, and I'd love to say my career is flourishing now too. So let's say that. I think I do lean more on the side of it's been more beneficial for me in more ways because even now, so, um, definitely in terms of comedy and the community I've met there, but just because of all the comedy stuff, I've met this community, and it's actually transitioned into speaking opportunities like with the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation to go to Las Vegas and to do reporting there and meet a bunch of doctors and people there, which is also selfishly really really beneficial just to know what kind of medicine is in the works. And even now, like I'm potentially doing this gig with a friend who I met through Instagram from doing comedy, and they're like, "Oh, we actually have a contractor role at this organization to do some work." I'm like, "Great, this is money. This translates directly into money and a livelihood that I wouldn't have gotten as just like a project manager on LinkedIn, constantly not getting interviews." Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd be more on the side of flourishing, and
Yeah.
which is exciting.
Fantastic to look at the bright
Yeah.
side of it. One thing
Yes.
that I'd love to talk about, I know we spoke about it previously, was just the financial impact that living with a chronic illness can have, and especially with the American
Yeah.
healthcare system. It's much more expensive to be sick in America than it is in Ireland. So would you mind diving into your experience with that for us?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's so, and again, definitely curious about the Irish healthcare system too. And when we want to get to that, so being diagnosed at 16, I wasn't thinking about health insurance much because most of us, there's definitely privilege there too. But I would say that the people I knew, at least, we were all on our parents' plans. And so I didn't think about it. I'm like, oh, I didn't think about what's expensive. And I didn't grow up necessarily wealthy, but it was like, but growing up just like, okay, like middle class Long Island, like, okay, like this is, things are covered where I think I'm okay. It wasn't until I got on my own insurance plan and then health complications started multiplying that I was like, this is very complicated and insane. And to the point where I was like, okay, I'm on a medication. You're denying this medication. Why? Like the doctor told me I need Humira, and my health insurance is saying, well, you don't need a Humira. And I'm like, well, why? And that's like a first step. Yeah. And throughout the years, it's only gotten worse. It's gotten exponentially worse. I'll just say right now I'm paying a $1,500 a month premium for my health insurance. That's for Cobra. So Cobra is not a health insurance in and of itself. It's a continuation plan. It's what is it? It's Continuation Omnibus Reconciliation Act, I think is what it stands for. And it's for you to keep the insurance that you had that you liked from your previous job, but you pay the full amount premium instead of your job paying like 70% premium. So instead of paying $100 a month, I'm paying $1,500 a month. A listener or you yourself, you might be like, Ian, why are you even on that plan? Why don't you just get a different plan? Great question. If I want a private plan, separate from this, first of all, the premium might be the same, and I have to deal with the issue of potentially pre-existing conditions. So you say, okay, don't do that. Do a marketplace plan, the ACA, the Affordable Care Act. Okay, I'll go to that. That's the one that Obama instituted 2008, 2009, whenever that was actually officially passed. I can do an ACA plan right now where we're at. They're not fully eliminating subsidies as far as I know, but they're reducing subsidy qualifications, and you're going to likely get a worse plan for the same amount of premium. So I'm paying $1,500 a month for a good plan for Cobra. I'll probably be paying like $1,300 a month for a much lesser good plan. And the hope is that they would still accept my medication, my specialty medication. I'm currently on, I don't know if we're doing the brand names, but I'm currently taking
Whatever.
Skyrizi. Yeah, I'm currently taking Skyrizi and Rinvoq as a dual therapy. All this to say, so the money itself is crazy, but that's not where it ends, because I'm on a dual therapy. I'm still getting notices that we approve you for Skyrizi, but we're not going to approve you for Rinvoq because you don't need both. And again, you might say, well, Ian, that's fair because there's not enough data on how dual therapies work. And so like there is an argument of like, okay, I guess I understand why they're denying me, but my doctors is also saying there's data showing that this works as a dual therapy. That's just one note of it. And then another part of it is, if you want to fight this, I can call my health insurance directly. I can call Aetna and be like, hey, why are you denying this? They'll say, sorry, this is not actually for us to discuss with you. This is for your specialty pharmacy to discuss with you. This is for your specialty pharmacy to discuss with you. So then I'll call the specialty pharmacy and they're like, no, actually, this is for your workplace. You have to speak to your HR people because they're the ones that actually deal with this. I call them and they're like, no, actually, this is for the manufacturer to deal with. This is for your manufacturer of the drug. I got to a point where I think my specialty pharmacy told me I owed like $10,000 for something. And this is the exact process I went through. And I had to work, and I was feeling particularly not healthy at the time. I was feeling pain. And so what I finally did was like, okay, we're going to get on a conference call, the four of us, because you can't keep making me do this like a worker bee, just constantly going around in circles to all of you. So I'm going to get us on a conference call. I got 3 out of 4 of them on a conference call. One of them said, we're not allowed to be on conference calls with anybody. So I was like, okay, like I did it actually at a certain point, just put the phone on mute and just went like, I started screaming. I started just going like, and like just cursing because I was like, I can't deal with all of this, and fearing the financial burden that this would have on me and the stress health burden this would have on me. I just was going to have a breakdown. And that's just a glimpse into all of this. But this is what I've heard. I've heard much more intense stories. I've heard it's all around the spectrum of this that I know people have dealt with in this country. And I think the thing that we keep saying is nobody's doing anything about this. Nobody's actually, like, people are trying. I'm not saying people aren't trying, especially in New York. Physicians for a National Health Program are doing really great work. Debt Collective is helping people get out of medical debt. There are organizations that are doing some really great work, but as far as I know, the actual U.S. government is not doing anything to make healthcare better, and they've only made it worse by trying to reduce subsidies. This is my soapbox rant right now, but clearly this is an issue. So.
That is a rant that needs to be had. Like I'm here jotting down so many things I need to unpack there.
Thank you. Yeah.
That is insanity. The fact that the insurance companies are preventing you from getting the medication that you are being advised you need to get, being like, there's not enough evidence, but there's enough evidence for the doctor to put you on it. Like, that is insanity. Right. That is them trying to nearly keep you sick, is the only way I could actually look at it. Like, it's absolutely insane. The cost then on top of the 10,000 that you had to pay when you were paying your medical insurance already, like, that is just the financial burden. And I take it, are you self-employed, or do you work for someone through the work that you do?
Currently I'm self-employed. Yeah, I had a media job. I was laid off in January 2025, and you know, I think for anyone laid off anyway, it puts you into a tailspin of like, what am I doing with my life? But then it also this supplemental burden of like, okay, what am I doing with my health? Like, how am I going to handle this? It really shatters you. And
complete disregard for the human being. Do you know, that is absolutely ridiculous. Knowing that all the pains and the struggles we all have on a daily basis, and this added cost has now come onto you, and they're not even trying to help you get the care that you need to be healthy so you can progress with your life, go out and make money to pay for the care that you need. It's just a loop of just, oh my God, the frustration, as you said, your soapbox rant and trying to get the people on the call, that must be really affecting your mental health and your daily life. How do you find that burden has fallen on you?
No, it absolutely affects my mental health and my daily life. And I don't know if you deal with this too. I don't know if it's similar to you in Ireland, but it's like, I think here what's an issue too is that when this happens, you want to be like frustrated at the system, but then you'll also hear arguments. I've heard arguments from some family members where it's like, it wasn't directed totally at me, but it's like, oh, what do you just want a handout from the government? Oh, you just want a handout? Like this idea of like, you chose no, and no one said this directly verbatim to me, but this idea of like, oh, you chose the wrong career path. You chose wrong. You did this, like, okay. And in my head, I think part of me does buy into it. Like, yeah, I guess I should have like chosen a different career path. I guess I should have done this, should have. And that's what's really tricky is you're like, okay, like I do want to take some accountability, but I also like, I did not ask for Crohn's disease. I didn't like, I'm trying to manage it best I can. And you're right. Like, nobody owes me anything. I guess, should I start my own health insurance? Like, is that like, what should I, like, I don't know. I'm trying not to ask for handouts, but also just figuring out like, I do pay taxes, so I'm like, isn't there some balance of like what you're owed versus what you pay?
Yeah, I would counter that and say that you have completely taken accountability. You're doing everything you can to make yourself healthy, and you've also chosen a career path you know you're good at and passionate about to build a life for yourself. You're not looking for handouts. You're literally looking to survive. You're trying to build a life for yourself, and you need help fighting a chronic illness you didn't ask for. So the fact that some people would then eschew that and say you're looking for handouts, you're just fighting through life the same as anyone else. So it's a ridiculously privileged statement for someone to come at that with you, because obviously you're thinking, like, I wouldn't be asking for any help if I didn't need it. So it's a very frustrating thing to have to be dealing with. Do you find from a family side, I know you said you've been with your partner for a good number of years, do you find it's kind of burdening on them? There's a ripple effect throughout your entire circle from what you're experiencing?
I mean, Becca's been amazing. Like, my partner, she's been great throughout. Like, she's super supportive. And I think day to day, it's not, I've heard other stories of people just having like day to day issues all the time. Like, I don't have that at this point. She has had to deal with my anxiety of like, I feel a pain in my right side, my right abdomen. Should I go to the ER? You know, like that type of thing, and just kind of like figuring it out together. She's been great. And actually, like, most of my family has been really understanding, good about it. You know, reliable, there for me if I need it, if needed. You know, I think I do have a family member that they're kind about it, but also if I tell them, they'll go like, I'll be, you know, I'll tell my dad, I'll be like, oh, this is happening right now. And he goes, man, boy, Ian, that's not good. And I'm just like, all right, this is it's a bit intense. Like I already feel like this, but you're making it slightly more intense right now with this reaction. Yeah. And so to answer your question, like I think it doesn't feel, thankfully they haven't made me feel like I'm too much of a burden on them. And it is a thing that when I go to the ER, maybe I'm too much like, no, I'll just go myself. It's okay. I very much want to just deal with it myself and not have someone have to be a caretaker. I really don't want to and I know people are willing to, some people, but like I don't want people to have to take on that role. So as much as I can, just yeah.
Of course, and as a man, you want to stand on your own 2 feet, and you want to tackle head on, and obviously not be affecting anyone else's life with what you've had to go through. But I know you
Yeah.
said that you suffer with anxiety, and you went through some horrendous surgeries. It must be so painful, and the internal bleeding. Just to kind of circle back to that a little bit, was there ever a moment where you kind of thought, I don't know if I can keep going with this?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I assume you're saying like just like life wise.
Yeah,
Yeah. No. Absolutely. Like that's no question. There are definitely days where I was like, I just don't want to deal with this. And I kind of look at it as like, I'm not even trying to be like, make people pity me or make people feel bad. I'm just like, it's just too much. And I think there is a feeling of like, I want to just opt out right now because it's just like, I don't really want to deal with this. And it's not just, as you were saying, it's not just a thing of like a minor thing where you're like, I want to opt out and because I don't want to do this chore or something. It's like, no, you should try to experience the pain and the issues that me and you have felt, and you'll see what we're talking about. I can't help but go immediately back to the NG tube or having an ileus in the first place, besides bowel obstructions or the surgery itself. It's like experience what it's like to have an ileus in the hospital for 9 hours where nobody on the floor is responding. That's what happened when I was in the hospital. Like, no, I was literally doing the call button. And again, in the fetal position, feeling the most intense nausea I've ever felt in my life. And that's at like midnight. And then nobody's coming until like 7 a.m. when nurse comes in and finally goes like, oh, we'll give you nausea medication. Nausea medication doesn't work. And then I'm like, okay, I have to throw up. And they're like, well, we don't want you to throw up because we don't recommend it because you've had surgery. I'm like, I know, but this is like torture. And eventually getting an NG tube. But I think to refer back to what your question was, like when I was in that state, the fetal position, I'm like, I'm okay if someone just comes in, and not to be graphic, I'm okay if someone just comes in and like, gives me like a Dr. Kevorkian, just injects me with a death medicine. Like this is fine. It felt needed. I just don't want to deal with it anymore. And I think the only sad part is, oh, you feel like, okay, how would this affect people in your life? Like you don't want that to be an issue. But for myself, I'm like, this is not fun, and life's not meant to be fun. But it's also it's a bit more intense. On your end, you've also, it seems like maybe you can relate to that.
I've been
Yeah.
there. I've been there. I remember lying
Yeah.
in a bed one night after surgery. I have a scar that goes kind of halfway through my stomach anyway. But I had my first ever large intestine removal, and they took out a partial removal, and I started vomiting uncontrollably afterwards. And
Oh,
the
wow.
pain, they're trying to put an NG tube up my nose while I was vomiting at the same time. I'm vomiting all over the nurse. She's trying to put the tube up my nose. It's not going in. There's vomit coming down my nose, out my mouth. It's terrible. And I remember lying back in that bed and literally just praying for death. I was like, I am done with this. I'm out.
Mhm.
This is just, it's not worth it anymore. There's no fight left in me. But I suppose the thing we can say is there's still fight left. You persevere and you pull through. And for you yourself, do you ever go back to that moment and kind of think, wow, look at how far I've come? Or do you kind of prefer to keep it in the past?
No, I actually I look back to that moment pretty frequently. I do storytelling shows, and I've told that story about surgery and NG tube pretty frequently. I told the story once, and in the audience, someone actually passed out during the show when I was going through the NG tube. And that was a learning experience. I was like, I don't know if it was directly related to the story. They had some type of emergency happen. I was like, oh God. I'm like, I like telling the story, but is this it? Is this actually making someone pass out from me describing black vomit coming out and bile coming out? Should I reel it back? I like revisiting it because I do like being like, wow, I do like revisiting points in my life where I'm like, oh wow, okay, that was really hard. I did get through that, and tinged with, I hope it doesn't happen again. I like to revisit it because I think you probably feel the same way, right? Like when you're in it, you're like, I don't know what feeling normal is. I don't know what feeling normal is like. And then when you're normal, like you're kind of like, wow, I actually don't. I remember what that was like, that pain and that nausea, but I actually don't viscerally remember it because I'm not in it now. I like, it's the same feeling actually I had towards middle school. I'm like, I like to revisit the fact that I'm not in middle school anymore and not in that state of my life anymore. That there's a more autonomy. So yeah, I like to revisit the past in that sense,
Yeah,
to know it's not here anymore.
I completely agree. I think it's very healthy to go back to so you can enjoy the present moment and know fucking hell,
Yes.
look what I went through. And now I can actually see the light that's around me, and the good times that I can enjoy now because I went through that. So I think it is a very healthy thing to jump back into. Do you feel that everything you've experienced has made you stronger and much more knowledgeable and much more able to tackle anything that kind of comes in your way these days?
Yeah. I think when something's new, it is that much more frightening. Knowing what I've been through, I'm like, okay, if I need to get an NG tube again, I've had it twice. You've I don't know how many times you've had it. I don't know. 3 times. Okay, so you win. It's and that's yeah. Congratulations. I don't want it to happen again, but I'm like, okay, this isn't. I know what this is, and I know what to expect, and there is a calming effect that has on me, once you've been through it. I will say, like, yeah, I think I get stronger. I think also I'd like to say more empathy too, because I think what this does do for us is that it does actually give us a glimpse into what aging is like in some way. And so, I'm 34 now, and there is a thing of like, I'm definitely getting older, but there still is a thing I think with people my age that I see people kind of think they're invincible. And even I think that when I'm feeling good, I'm like, oh, I can do anything. I'm fine. But this has given me a glimpse into like, no, all right, this is going to be sort of what it's like when you're 60, 70, 80, 90 is like medical appointments, 4 medical appointments a week, which I've definitely had, and constant doctors and it's just like your life is medical stuff. And that's unfortunately, at least right now, what 80 and 90 can look like for a lot of people. And so I've been able to at least say like, okay, like I think there's some empathy there. Cause I will say I've had people say, I wonder if people said this to you. People said to me, I've had a few people who are in their 60s, 70s. You're young. You don't know what it's like. You'll see what it's like. And I immediately feel anger, actually. Yeah, honestly, because I'm like, I'm not saying that they haven't gone through hard things, but I'm like, you don't know what I've gone through too. And so when someone said that to me, I actually said to her, she said, you're young. You don't know what this is like to go through this health stuff. And I'm like, I actually said, well, and this was when I was dealing with it. I said, well, I'm actually bleeding internally right now. And she says back
Mic
to me,
drop.
she goes, well, and her response was, "Oh shit, that's fucked up." And I was like, "Yeah, it is." And I actually appreciated her response, but I was like, "Yeah, it is. It is fucked up." But I'm gonna tell you that because I'm not gonna silently just be like, "You're right. I don't know what this is like." Like,
Yeah.
we all have different life experiences, but to some extent, I like to say I know what it's like to have medical issues.
Yeah, it definitely teaches you an empathy, and you learn not to judge
Yeah.
because obviously it's an invisible illness. People could look at us and be like, those lads look great, but there's nothing wrong with them. As you said, bleeding internally. No one had a clue what was going on internally in your mind or in your body. And then for someone to speak, come out with a statement like that, it's just ignorance, to be honest.
It really is. And it's a similar thing like in New York City too. Like I'm on the subway right now, I'm okay, I can stand, but there's a point where I was like, I can't go up the stairs without like getting completely out of breath because of my hemoglobin levels and iron levels being like shit. And so I did want to sit down sometimes. I do want to be like, but you don't want to be that guy who's like looking like a young, healthy guy who's just like, can I have your seat? Like, so it's like
Yeah.
this stubbornness in you because of optics.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And people are
Yeah.
so quick to judge rather than actually have any empathy, which is unfortunately just a problem we have in our society, which is is in every country. It doesn't seem to matter. But
Right.
one thing I'd like to circle back to, we've spoken about how you can have a little bit of empathy for people as they're getting older, knowing a little bit of what they're experiencing from your own life. If you were to dive back into 16-year-old you, what advice would he have needed to hear back then?
Oh wow. I mean, there is the cliche thing of like I think I would have said to my 16-year-old self, "You're gonna be okay." I would also like if it was the positive momentum, I said, "You're gonna be okay." I think I would also just be like, "Hey, stop having ultra processed food. Maybe not, that's not gonna solve your Crohn's, but I think it might help you a little bit. Maybe don't have a pastrami sandwich every single day." And so that's what I was having for lunch at that point. I would say avoid that. I would say invest into Bitcoin, put a lot of money in Bitcoin at 16. But yeah, I would to be like, I want to be like, hey, okay, these are the things that you do have to prepare for. But luckily, as you get older, there will be more medications. Also, make sure you get the best doctors you can, which sounds like such an easy thing to say, and also definitely a privileged thing to say. Just don't settle for crap doctors, which I think also this ties into an idea of living in a major city, So I guess I'd have to tell my 16-year-old self, like, yeah, just make sure you stick to the major cities because that's where you're going to probably find the best doctors. In Brandon, Mississippi, I don't think you're going to find that, unfortunately. So stick by the best doctors if you can. Yeah.
Yeah, putting yourself in the best position you can to get the care that you need to receive is great advice for people that are maybe on the start of their journey. Is you kind of have to it's an incurable disease, which is a horrible thing to think of and say, but
Yeah.
you can still manage it by making sure that you advocate for yourself and do everything that you need to. Ian, with everything you've experienced throughout your life, what is the main thing that matters to you now going forward?
It's relationships. It's 100% relationships and community and because I'm just like that's everything. That's where I found the most fulfillment, just socially and emotionally, and it provides everything. Hopefully you can give to that too, but it's like it provides everything, emotional well-being for education. Like it's everything. And yes, money is very, very important to me, and I'm figuring that out too. But I'm like, having money and being completely isolated, yes, you can find things to do, but there is something to being around people that you care about, that care about you. Yeah, that's the thing I'm hoping as I get older to just maintain and thrive if I can, and not let go of that, because especially now everyone's getting married and having kids. I'm like, oh, people are starting to disappear a bit. This is interesting. Let me uh, hold on to my community as much as I can.
I'm completely the same boat. A lot of my friends now get married, having kids and stuff, and there's, I won't say a detachment. It's because it's not that. We still have the same conversations when we meet up, but there's just we have less time to spend together. Life is
Yes,
changing,
yes,
so you have
exactly.
to really appreciate the relationships when you have the chance, and make sure that we maintain the relationships, much like gardening. You have to keep in contact, and you have to push to make sure that we ensure we hang on to these relationships. Exactly. Just before we
Yes.
kind of come to the last question, Ian, is there anything you'd like to share with anyone listening?
Yeah, I mean, I'm currently one of the things I started. I'm working with my friend Amanda Lair. She's a comedy writer, also in New York. Yeah, we started a Substack page actually. It was like called the Out of Network Network, and it's a Substack page dedicated to. Uh, we get a lot. I've heard a lot of healthcare stories from friends and from people I met, horror stories, but we try to. So what we do is we take someone's healthcare story, as horrific as it might be, and we pass it along to like a cartoonist. We take a story from someone who sent us a healthcare story, and we pass it along to a cartoonist, usually someone from the New Yorker or from whatever other publication, and they'll turn it into a cartoon, a single panel, which will aim to be comedic. So it's a healthcare cartoon Substack, and it's called the Out of Network Network, and that's something we're really passionate about right now because it lets us meet cool people and work with really interesting creative people as well.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and it's really flipping the
Yeah.
narrative on these experiences, which are horrendous. But like you're giving people a platform, giving a voice to voiceless people, and all the while making it very easy to raise awareness, and also make it easy to understand what people are going through the modality that you're choosing, which is fantastic. Fair play to you. My final question for you, and I love getting people's perspective on it. What does happiness mean to you? But
That's a great question. What does happiness mean to me? I think right now it is, I can't help but go back to the relationship aspect, the community aspect. That is where I'm finding happiness the most right now. Having a lot of money would be really nice. That would definitely make me happy. So because yeah, and then I can't help but think of world events right now too, and would want those to not be as intense. Honestly, I think the first image that comes to mind is like being at home in peace and quiet. I've been having like hot water every single morning, the first thing when I do when I wake up. And I think just having like, I found happiness just in that, having that hot water next to the window, seeing the two cats, my partner, just like calmness, calm, quiet, peacefulness. That's what I'm finding.
yeah, it's
That's happiness
beautiful.
to me right now.
Yeah, that's absolutely beautiful. It's a complete presence in the moment, and having the knowledge to know that everything around you is such a positive thing in your life. So thank you so much for sharing that,
Absolutely. Yeah.
Eddie. Ian, it has been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today. I will definitely put all your details for anyone who wants to see your work, and I can't wait to check more of it out myself. Like, so it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Looking forward to seeing this up and talking to you more.
Eddie.
And there's my cat. Okay, great. All right. Okay.
The
Yeah.
celebrity is VIP guest spot. Massive thank you to Ian for coming on and sharing his story. And thank you all so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please take a second to follow the podcast, leave a rating, and share this episode with someone you think might need to hear it. Every share genuinely helps these conversations reach the people who need the most. Next week on the Survival Project, I'm joined by Keris Davidge. Keris is the host of the Unbalanced podcast, and she lives with limb-girdle muscular dystrophy. We have a powerful conversation about growing up with disability, identity, resilience, and refusing to let diagnosis define what's possible. So, see you next week.